Dr. Amanda Sullivan had spent enough sleepless nights in the Pentagon's quantum analysis lab to know when something was wrong. The holographic displays surrounding her workstation pulsed with an unfamiliar pattern, a quantum signature she'd never seen before. 3 cups of coffee into her graveyard shift, she almost dismissed it as another false positive. Almost. "Run diagnostic sequence Alpha 7 again," she commanded, her voice steady despite the growing unease in her gut. The AI assistant compiled the results, and the same anomalous pattern emerged, more distinct this time. The quantum fluctuations weren't random noise. They held structure, purpose, intent. "Cross-reference with known signals database," Amanda ordered, pushing her copper-red hair back from her face as she leaned closer to the display. The database search came back negative, but something about the pattern tugged at her memory. It reminded her of the quantum encryption protocols she helped develop for the Joint Chiefs, but wrong, alien, like seeing a familiar face distorted in a funhouse mirror. Her fingers flew across the haptic interface, initiating deeper scans. The anomaly was spreading, threading its way through Earth's quantum defense grid like invisible tendrils. Most concerning was how it bypassed their most sophisticated security measures, as if they weren't even there. "Computer, establish secure linked to General Morrison." The clock read 3:47 a.m., but this couldn't wait until morning. The general's face materialized in her comm display, sleep-creased but alert. "Dr. Sullivan, this better be important." "Sir, I'm detecting what appears to be a non-terrestrial quantum network, attempting to map our defense infrastructure." Amanda sent him the live data feed. "It's like nothing we've ever seen. The signal's operating on principles that shouldn't be possible according to our current understanding of quantum mechanics." Morrison's expression hardened as he studied the data. "Hostile." "Unknown, sir, but it's actively probing our weaknesses. The concerning part is how easily it's penetrating our most advanced quantum firewalls." Amanda pulled up a secondary display showing the spread of the anomaly. "It's as if our best defenses are primitive by comparison." Recommendations. Amanda took a deep breath. What she was about to suggest would sound crazy. "Sir, I think we should selectively power down portions of the quantum grid and route critical communications through older conventional channels." "You want us to downgrade our security?" "Doctor, if this is as serious as you suggest." "That's exactly why, sir," Amanda interrupted, earning a raised eyebrow from the general. "Whatever this is, it's designed to interact with quantum networks far more advanced than ours. I've got a hunch it might have a harder time detecting or interpreting older technology." Morrison was silent for a long moment, studying her with steel-gray eyes that had seen too many wars. "You realize what you're implying?" "Yes, sir. We're not alone, and they're far more advanced than us." Amanda's voice remained steady, but her hands had balled into fists beneath her desk. "But being more advanced doesn't always mean being better prepared. Sometimes having the latest technology makes you forget the basics." The general nodded slowly. "I'm authorizing Emergency Protocol Delta 7. You have 2 hours to compile a full analysis and brief the Joint Chiefs." "And Dr. Sullivan?" "Sir, if you're right about this, everything changes. If you're wrong." He left the threat unspoken. "Understood, sir." The display winked out, leaving Amanda alone with the pulsing quantum signatures. She pulled up every scrap of data she could access, searching for patterns, weaknesses, anything that might give humanity an edge. Because deep in her gut, she knew this wasn't just first contact. This was first blood. Someone or something was mapping Earth's defenses, preparing for something bigger. And humanity's best technology was about as effective as tissue paper against their systems. But maybe, just maybe, that would turn out to be our greatest advantage. The Joint Chiefs briefing room buzzed with barely contained panic. 4-star generals huddled over tablets displaying global defense readiness, while intelligence directors argued about deployment strategies. Amanda stood before them, her presentation displaying a 3-dimensional model of the alien network structure. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're looking at something that fundamentally changes our understanding of warfare," she said, manipulating the hologram to highlight intersecting patterns. These aren't just communication signals. They're part of a unified combat coordination system that operates on a quantum level we barely understand. Admiral Chen interrupted, his weathered face creased with concern. Dr. Sullivan, we have carriers being deployed, missile systems on high alert. Give us something concrete we can use. Amanda nodded, switching to a new display. The alien network operates on perfect synchronization. Every unit, every weapon, every tactical decision is coordinated with microsecond precision across what we assume must be their entire fleet. They don't just share information. They share consciousness. That sounds like an overwhelming advantage, General Morrison noted grimly. It should be, Amanda agreed, then allowed herself a slight smile. Except for one critical weakness. They've never encountered a species that fights like we do. The room fell silent. Amanda brought up historical combat footage spanning centuries, from ancient battles to modern warfare. Humanity's military history is unique because we evolved fighting ourselves. We developed countless ways to deal with enemies who think like we do, who can adapt and deceive. Our combat doctrine is built on the assumption that the enemy is watching, thinking, and countering our every move. She highlighted sections of the alien network analysis, but look at their system architecture. There's no provision for counterintelligence, no protection against deception or false data. Their entire combat doctrine assumes perfect information exchange between absolutely loyal units. Because they've never needed to fight themselves, Morrison breathed, beginning to understand. Exactly. Amanda brought up her final slide. They're so advanced, they've forgotten how to fight dirty. Their neural network is perfect at coordinating overwhelming force, but it has no concept of guerrilla warfare, of deliberate misinformation, of fighting blind. A younger general scoffed. So we're supposed to win because we're primitive. No, Amanda's voice hardened. We're supposed to win because we understand both order and chaos. Every major military breakthrough in human history came from someone doing the unexpected, the impossible, the primitive thing that caught the enemy off guard. She pulled up tactical simulations her team had run through the night. Their network can't process our older communication methods. Cold War-era frequency-hopping radios, visual signals, even pre-digital encryption. It's all invisible to them. They're looking for quantum signatures while we can coordinate entire operations using technologies they consider too primitive to monitor. The room erupted in discussion, but Admiral Chen raised his hand for silence. Dr. Sullivan, are you suggesting we deliberately downgrade our capabilities? No, sir. I'm suggesting we use everything we have, from smoke signals to quantum computers. They expect perfect coordination. Let's show them organized chaos. Their neural network will try to predict our actions using pure logic, but human warfare has never been purely logical. Morrison stood, his decision made. What do you need? Access to mothballed military equipment, Cold War-era communications gear, analog weapon systems, anything that operates outside quantum observation range. And most importantly, she paused, knowing how this would sound. I need special forces teams trained in operating without any modern technology at all. The room fell silent again, the implications sinking in. They were about to fight a war unlike any in human history, not by matching the aliens' superior technology, but by exploiting their inability to comprehend inferior tech. One more thing, Amanda added, her expression grim. We need to do this fast. Based on the probe patterns, we have less than 72 hours before they make their first move, and their first strike will target our most advanced military installations, the ones they can see. Morrison nodded, because those are the only ones they believe matter. Yes, sir. Amanda allowed herself a tight smile. Let's show them how wrong they are. The first attack came at dawn. Amanda watched in horror as the Norfolk Naval Station disappeared in a blinding flash of quantum-accelerated particles. The most advanced naval base in human history, reduced to atomic slag in seconds. The holographic displays in the emergency command center tracked similar strikes worldwide. Quantum computer facilities, AI defense networks, next-gen weapons platforms, all destroyed with surgical precision. But something caught her eye. A blip on the old radar systems they'd reactivated. "General Morrison, the U.S. Tennessee is still out there," she said, pointing to the submarine signature. "They're running silent, using their old diesel backup systems. The aliens missed them completely." Morrison leaned forward, studying the vintage radar display. "How many other assets did we manage to downgrade in time?" Amanda pulled up a global map marked with green dots, military units that had followed her controversial protocol to switch to older technology. 27% of our forces, sir. Mostly units that still maintained Cold War-era equipment for redundancy. And the aliens aren't engaging them at all. No, sir. Their targeting systems are calibrated for quantum signatures and neural emissions. They literally can't see anything operating below a certain technological threshold. Amanda's fingers flew across the keyboard, compiling data from surviving units. It's like they're wearing infrared goggles in visible light. They can only see what's hot enough to register. The command center's quantum screens flickered and died as another alien strike targeted their location's power grid. But the old analog systems kept humming, protected by their very obsolescence. "Sir," a young lieutenant called out, "we're getting reports from Fort Bragg. The Special Forces team that switched to vintage gear successfully ambushed an alien ground unit. They used Vietnam-era tactics and equipment. The aliens, they didn't even react until they were under fire." Amanda felt a surge of validation. "Show me the combat footage." The grainy video showed something astonishing. Alien soldiers, encased in shimmering quantum-linked armor, moved with perfect coordination, until the humans attacked with simple rifles and grenades. The alien formation fell apart, individual units freezing as their neural network failed to process the primitive threat. "They've evolved past individual combat instincts," Amanda breathed. "They rely entirely on their network for tactical decisions. When faced with threats their systems can't categorize, they literally don't know how to react." Morrison was already on the secure line to surviving command centers. "This is General Morrison. Implement Operation Retrograde immediately. All units are to switch to pre-digital equipment where available. Priority targets are any alien forces showing signs of network vulnerability." Amanda studied the incoming data, a plan forming. "Sir, we need to go further. The aliens adapt quickly. They're already adjusting their sensors to detect some electronic emissions. We need to go even more primitive. More primitive than Vietnam era." She nodded grimly. "World War I, maybe even earlier. Their entire combat doctrine is built on predicting and countering advanced technological threats. They have no protocols for dealing with what they consider archaeological weapons." "Dr. Sullivan, are you seriously suggesting we fight an interstellar war with museum pieces?" "No, sir." Amanda's eyes gleamed with determination. "I'm suggesting we fight it with everything we have, from sticks and stones to quantum bombs. The one thing these aliens don't understand is versatility. They've never had to improvise, to make do with inferior tools, to think outside their perfect network." A series of explosions rocked the building. Through the reinforced windows, they could see alien ships methodically destroying every piece of advanced technology in the city. But they were ignoring older structures, civilian areas, anything that didn't register on their quantum scans. "We've spent decades trying to perfect warfare," Amanda said quietly. "They've spent millennia doing the same, but they perfected themselves into a corner. They can't comprehend imperfection, and that's the one thing humanity has mastered." Morrison studied the old radar screen, watching more green dots appear as units switched to vintage equipment. "Then let's show them just how imperfect we can be. It's called the Guerrilla Protocol," Amanda announced to the assembled group of Special Forces operators in the underground bunker. The room was lit by generator-powered lights, deliberately kept off the main power grid. On the wall, a hand-drawn map showed alien positions marked with grease pencil. Captain Jake Rodriguez, leader of Delta Force's Ghost Team, studied the collection of vintage equipment laid out before them. "Doc, some of this stuff belongs in a museum." "That's exactly why it's going to work." Amanda picked up an old signal mirror. "Every piece of gear here is completely invisible to alien detection systems. We've confirmed they can't even conceptualize military operations without advanced technology." She moved to a table covered with World War I-era field radios, Vietnam-era signal flares, and even Civil War heliographs. "Your teams will be our proof of concept. If this works, we roll it out globally." "And if it doesn't?" Rodriguez asked, examining a hand-cranked field telephone. "Then we're probably all dead anyway." Amanda activated a battery-powered projector, displaying footage from previous engagements. "Watch their reaction time here." The video showed alien troops, their quantum-linked armor gleaming, completely missing a Marine squad, using basic hand signals and radio silence. The aliens' perfect formation shattered when attacked with simple RPGs and small arms fire. "They're like a chess grandmaster being challenged to a bar fight," Amanda explained. "All their training, all their technology, assumes warfare follows logical, predictable patterns. They literally cannot process purely human improvisation." Rodriguez nodded slowly. "So we go old school. Real old school." "Exactly. Your first mission is to disrupt their command and control center here." Amanda pointed to the map. "They've set up in what used to be NORAD, thinking our old bunker systems are primitive shelters. They don't realize we can still use them." The captain studied the approach routes. "How do we coordinate without modern comms?" Amanda smiled, pulling out a folder of yellowed papers. "These are actual World War I resistance codes, simple substitution ciphers, dead drops, chalk marks, methods so old they're new again. The aliens intercept and analyze every digital signal, every quantum transmission, but they completely ignore physical marks and basic radio waves." She laid out the mission parameters: 4 teams, operating independently, using only pre-digital age technology. Their objective was to infiltrate and disrupt the alien network node, using the very primitiveness of their methods as camouflage. "Remember," Amanda stressed, "they're not just advanced. They're too advanced. They've lost the ability to operate without perfect information. You'll appear as gaps in their network, blank spaces they can't analyze or predict." Rodriguez grinned. "Ghost in the machine." Literally. Amanda pulled up one final image, an alien neural interface they'd captured. Their tactical systems can't distinguish between equipment failure and deliberately primitive operations. Every time you successfully engage them using these methods, their entire network has to pause and recalibrate. They're perfectly coordinated, until that coordination becomes a weakness. The teams spent the next hour learning to use the obsolete equipment, their modern military training adapting to century-old techniques. Amanda watched them practice with signal mirrors and paper maps, seeing the future of warfare in its past. A messenger, actual human runner, burst into the room. "Dr. Sullivan, alien forces are moving towards the secondary command center. They've found our quantum signature." Amanda checked her watch, an old mechanical Timex. "Ahead of schedule. Captain, your teams need to move now. The aliens will be focused on destroying our advanced infrastructure. They won't be looking for soldiers using equipment they consider extinct." Rodriguez gathered his men, checking their vintage gear one last time. "Like fighting ghosts with ghosts." "Exactly." Amanda handed him a final piece of equipment, a simple brass compass. "Remember, when they can't predict you, they can't fight you. Show them why humanity never completely replaced the old with the new." The teams moved out, disappearing into the darkness like shadows. They carried with them humanity's newest weapon, its past. Amanda stared at the ancient computer screen, its green phosphor display showing a cascade of intercepted alien network traffic. Her breakthrough had come from an unlikely source: her grandfather's stories about disrupting Nazi radio communications during World War II. "Look at this pattern," she said to Morrison, pointing to the scrolling data. "Their network doesn't just coordinate their forces, it validates reality itself. Every alien unit cross-references its sensory data with the entire fleet. They literally can't act without consensus." Morrison leaned closer, his face illuminated by the vintage monitor. "And that's their weakness. That's their critical failure point." Amanda switched to a different display, showing Ghost Team's successful operations. "Every time our primitive attacks succeed, it creates a paradox in their network. They can't process how they're being damaged by forces they can't detect." The bunker shook as alien forces bombarded another quantum installation above ground. But down here, surrounded by Cold War-era equipment, they were invisible to the enemy sensors. "Sir, the virus is ready," Amanda announced, holding up a heavily modified Soviet-era radio transmitter. "We're not trying to hack their network. That would be impossible. Instead, we're going to confuse it with contradictory data from countless sources. Like electronic chaff. More like electronic schizophrenia." Amanda activated the device. "Their neural network requires perfect consensus. Watch what happens when we introduce human chaos into their perfect system." On the monitor, red dots representing alien ships began to show erratic movements. Their perfect formation wavered as conflicting data flooded their networks. "Ghost Team, this is Control," Amanda spoke into an old radio handset. "Operation Babel is live. Execute Phase 1. Across the battlefield, human forces began broadcasting on frequencies the aliens had dismissed as too primitive to monitor. Each transmission carried carefully crafted contradictions, false sensor readings, phantom troops, impossible movements. "Their whole combat doctrine is based on shared consciousness," Amanda explained, watching the alien formations deteriorate. "They've evolved beyond individual decision-making. When their network shows different units conflicting information, they freeze, trying to achieve impossible consensus." A young tech burst in. "Dr. Sullivan, we're getting reports. Alien ships are firing on each other." Amanda nodded grimly. "Their network is trying to reconcile our contradictory data. Some units are seeing threats where others see allies. They can't cope with the possibility that their shared reality might be wrong." Morrison watched in amazement as the alien fleet began to break formation. "They've never experienced confusion before, have they?" "Never." Amanda's fingers flew across the keyboard, adjusting the signal pattern. "Their entire civilization evolved with perfect information sharing. The concept of deliberate deception is literally alien to them." The vintage radio crackled. "Control, this is Ghost Lead. We're inside their command node. You're not going to believe what we're seeing." Amanda grabbed the handset. "Report, Captain." "They're commanders. They're paralyzed. Literally frozen in place. Every time our primitive signals introduce a contradiction, their entire neural network stops to analyze it. They can't filter out the noise because they've never needed to." On the main display, alien ships were scattering, their perfect coordination shattered by the flood of conflicting data. Some fired at phantom targets, others retreated from non-existent threats. "Sir," Amanda turned to Morrison, "request permission to initiate Phase 2. We flood their network with every piece of contradictory data we can generate. Radio signals, Morse code, even smoke signals. Anything they can detect but can't process properly." Morrison studied the tactical display, watching humanity's primitive chaos unravel the aliens' perfect order. "Do it." Amanda typed a final command into the ancient computer. Across the globe, human forces began broadcasting an overwhelming cacophony of conflicting information. The alien network, designed for perfect consensus, began to tear itself apart trying to reconcile the irreconcilable. "They made themselves too perfect," Amanda whispered, watching the alien fleet disintegrate into chaos. "They forgot that sometimes imperfection is strength." In the static-filled silence that followed, humanity's primitive technology continued its assault on the most advanced military network in known space, proving that sometimes the best way forward is to look backward. The captured alien neural interface pulsed with an eerie blue light in Amanda's makeshift lab. After 3 days of careful study, what she discovered left her both amazed and disturbed. It's not just their technology that's different, she explained to the assembled military leadership. Their entire neural architecture evolved without the concept of isolation. They've never been alone with their thoughts. She activated the interface's display, showing patterns that looked like a galaxy of interconnected stars. Every alien shares every experience, every decision, every moment with the entire species. They're not just connected, they're incapable of disconnection. How is that even possible? Rodriguez asked. He'd returned from his successful mission at NORAD, his team's primitive tactics having devastated the alien command center. Imagine never developing the ability to keep secrets, Amanda said, manipulating the holographic display. Imagine a species that evolved with perfect transparency, perfect consensus, perfect unity. They didn't choose to build their military this way. They literally can't conceive of any other way to exist. Morrison studied the neural patterns, and that's why our tactics are working. Better than we imagined. Amanda brought up combat footage from around the globe. Every time we force them to face contradiction or uncertainty, it's not just tactical confusion. It's existential crisis. Their minds literally cannot process the concept of deliberate deception. The footage showed alien units freezing in combat when faced with simple military deceptions, false retreats, feinted attacks, even basic camouflage. Their perfect coordination became their perfect paralysis. Watch this. Amanda highlighted a particular engagement, a human force using World War I tactics. Trenches, smoke screens, and artillery barrages had completely routed an alien mechanized division. They can't understand why their sensors show empty ground when their eyes see smoke. The contradiction doesn't just confuse them, it breaks them. Doctor, Morrison interrupted, we just got word. The aliens are attempting to adapt. They're trying to predict our primitive patterns. Amanda smiled grimly. Let me show you why that's going to make things worse for them. She switched to a new display, showing alien communication patterns. They're trying to understand chaos by consensus. Every unit is sharing its experiences with primitive warfare, trying to build a perfect model of imperfection. Rodriguez caught on first. They're trying to find order in disorder. Exactly. And it's causing cascade failures throughout their network. Amanda pointed to spreading patterns of disruption. They've never developed analytical frameworks for handling uncertainty. Every time they encounter a new primitive tactic, they try to achieve species-wide consensus on how to counter it. But you can't achieve consensus on chaos. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity's greatest weakness, our division, our individuality, our capacity for deception, had become our greatest strength against an enemy that couldn't comprehend these concepts. We've got them chasing shadows, Amanda continued. Every time they think they've understood one of our primitive tactics, we switch to another. Their neural network is burning itself out trying to perfect the unpredictable. A junior analyst burst into the room. Dr. Sullivan, we're detecting massive energy fluctuations in the alien fleet. Their network, it's starting to fragment. Amanda rushed to the main display. The alien neural patterns were showing signs of strain, entire sections going dark, as their perfect consensus shattered under the weight of contradiction. This is it, she breathed. Their command structure is collapsing. They can't maintain neural synchronization while trying to process tactical chaos. Morrison was already on the secure line. All units, initiate Operation Babel Final Phase. Maximum tactical diversity. I want Stone Age to Space Age, everything we've got. Let's show them every trick humanity has learned in 10,000 years of warfare. Amanda watched as humanity unleashed its full spectrum of military history against the aliens. Units using Bronze Age tactics coordinated with electronic warfare specialists. stone weapons struck alongside quantum torpedoes. The aliens' perfect network tried to track and counter everything simultaneously, hemorrhaging processing power as it attempted to impose order on deliberate disorder. We didn't just preserve our military history, Amanda realized. We preserved our ability to think in ways they never evolved to understand. In the end, humanity's greatest victory wouldn't come from matching alien perfection, but from embracing our own beautiful, terrible chaos. Deep in the quantum analysis lab, Amanda realized she'd been thinking about alien mathematics all wrong. The holographic displays showed their base numerical system, not binary or decimal, but something far more fundamental. They don't count in numbers, she announced to Morrison and Rodriguez, who had gathered for what might be their last strategic session. They count in certainties. English, Doctor, Morrison growled, watching as alien ships regrouped for what intelligence suggested would be their final push. Their entire mathematical system is built on consensus reality, Amanda explained, pulling up intercepted alien calculations. Look at these equations. They don't solve for specific values. They solve for universal agreement. It's why they can't handle our tactical chaos. We're not just violating their military doctrine. We're breaking their mathematical laws. Rodriguez studied the alien formations on the tactical display. How does this help us win? Amanda's fingers danced across the interface, implementing her most dangerous algorithm yet. Because I've figured out how to weaponize uncertainty itself. Operation Quantum Doubt is ready. The plan was audacious to the point of insanity. Every remaining human unit would broadcast contradictory information simultaneously, but with a twist. Each piece of data would be mathematically perfect according to alien calculations, yet completely incompatible with every other piece. Their network doesn't just share information, Amanda continued. It shares mathematical truth. When we feed it multiple, equally perfect but contradictory truths, we break their concept of reality itself. Morrison finished, beginning to understand. The first tests were devastating. When human forces began broadcasting the carefully crafted contradictions, entire alien battle groups froze, their neural networks locked in impossible mathematical paradoxes. Ghost lead to control. Rodriguez's voice crackled over the old radio. You need to see this. The alien soldiers, they're experiencing some kind of collective breakdown. Surveillance footage showed alien troops removing their neural interfaces, unable to cope with the fundamental contradictions flooding their network. Their perfect formation dissolved into chaos as individual units, for the first time in their species' history, faced the concept of mathematical uncertainty. It's working better than we predicted, Amanda said, monitoring the cascade of failures through the alien fleet. Their entire neural network is trying to solve for multiple contradictory truths simultaneously. It's like dividing by zero, but at a civilizational level. Morrison watched as alien ships began firing at random coordinates, their targeting systems unable to reconcile conflicting mathematical realities. They're coming apart. Not just tactically, Amanda explained. Their whole society is built on mathematical consensus. We're not just defeating their military, we're challenging the foundation of their civilization. The bunker shook as the aliens launched desperate strikes against anything they could still perceive. But their attacks had lost their precision, their perfect coordination shattered by fundamental uncertainty. All units, execute final protocol, Morrison ordered. Show them every impossible thing we can think of. Across the battlefield, human forces implemented Amanda's ultimate strategy. Special forces teams appeared to be in multiple places simultaneously, thanks to carefully timed movements and contradictory signals. Ancient warfare techniques combined with quantum physics in ways that violated alien mathematics. Every human action was designed not just to confuse, but to create unsolvable equations in the alien network. Sir, a young analyst called out, the alien neural network, it's starting to delete itself. Their consensus engine is purging contradictory data, but the contradictions are coming faster than they can erase them. Amanda watched as the alien fleet began to tear itself apart, unable to distinguish truth from deception, reality from illusion. Her mathematical attack had done more than disrupt their communications. It had introduced the concept of doubt into a civilization built on certainty. In the end, she said quietly, their greatest weakness wasn't technological. It was evolutionary. They never developed the ability to embrace uncertainty, to find strength in doubt, to turn chaos into advantage. As the alien network collapsed under the weight of infinite mathematical contradictions, humanity's victory was sealed not by superior firepower or advanced technology, but by our species' unique ability to thrive in the spaces between certainties. The final battle for Earth began not with a bang, but with silence. Absolute, devastating silence. Amanda stood in the command center, surrounded by technology spanning human history. From quantum computers to smoke signal charts, the alien mothership loomed in high orbit, a last desperate concentration of their remaining forces. They've adapted to every frequency we've used, Rodriguez reported, his ghost team monitoring from forward positions using everything from thermal scopes to brass spyglasses. They're learning. No, Amanda corrected, studying the alien patterns. They're trying to learn, but they're doing it wrong. They think if they can understand each individual primitive technique, they can understand all of them. They don't realize. Realize what? Morrison demanded. That chaos isn't cumulative, it's multiplicative. Amanda initiated her final protocol, codenamed BABEL Prime. Every new technique we introduce doesn't just add to their confusion, it multiplies it exponentially. The more they try to understand, the less they actually comprehend. The plan was beautiful in its insanity. Every human military unit would use a different combination of technologies and tactics from different eras. Stone Age signals mixed with quantum entanglement. Radio waves crossed with smoke signals. Morse code interwoven with neural links. All units, execute Operation Historical Chaos, Morrison ordered. Random tactical protocols, maximum variance. Show them everything we've got, all at once. The response was unprecedented. Around the globe, human forces unleashed 10,000 years of military evolution simultaneously. Special forces teams using flint knives ambushed alien patrols while stealth fighters provided quantum cover. Cavalry charges supported by EMP bursts. Trench warfare augmented by AI targeting. Look at their network. Amanda pointed to the display. They're trying to classify and counter each method individually. But the combinations. The alien mothership's neural network was experiencing cascade failures as it attempted to process the impossible variety of human warfare. Their perfect consensus was drowning in an ocean of tactical diversity. Ghost lead to control, Rodriguez's voice crackled. They're starting to attack their own units. Any force that displays behavior they can't classify is being targeted as compromised. Amanda nodded grimly. Their network can't handle tactical uncertainty. When faced with methods it can't categorize, it assumes system corruption. They're purging their own forces in a desperate attempt to maintain mathematical purity. The alien mothership began to pulse with strange energy as its neural network tried to resolve the unresolvable. Human forces had become living contradictions, simultaneously primitive and advanced, predictable and chaotic, visible and invisible to alien sensors. Now, Amanda commanded, all units, execute final victory protocol. Across the planet, every human military force changed tactics simultaneously. Units that had been using advanced technology switched to primitive methods. Those using ancient techniques suddenly employed quantum weapons. The constant shift created a tactical uncertainty field that the alien network couldn't process. Their core logic is collapsing, Amanda reported, watching the alien network tear itself apart. They're facing something their evolution never prepared them for, the advantage of imperfection. The mothership's destruction began from within. Unable to achieve consensus reality, unable to process the infinite variety of human combat evolution, its neural network began a catastrophic cascade failure. The perfect civilization that had never known doubt faced a species that had mastered it. In the end, humanity's victory came not from matching alien advancement, but from embracing our own complexity, our primitive nature, our ability to think both simply and complexly, our comfort with contradiction. Everything that made us seem inferior had proven to be our salvation. Dr. Sullivan, Morrison said quietly as they watched the mothership break apart, "What did we just prove?" Amanda smiled, looking at the mix of technologies surrounding them. From ancient to quantum, all equally vital to their victory. We proved that evolution isn't always about becoming more advanced. Sometimes it's about maintaining the strength to be both primitive and sophisticated, ordered and chaotic, certain and doubtful. As the sun rose on a free Earth, humanity had demonstrated that true advancement wasn't about achieving perfection. It was about preserving the ability to be perfectly imperfect.